Okay, so welcome to our presentation in which we will present an empirical study on dealing constructively with mistakes in written productions in the context of German foreign language learning in higher education, which was carried out with a colleague of mine, Elena Band, who's not, who cannot be present today, but she greets everyone as usual. So dealing productively with mistakes, as we just did here, means accepting that mistakes do happen and not becoming fixated on preventing them, but using mistakes as learning opportunities to build knowledge and skills. So next time, I'm not going to make the recording before the presentation for sure. The first overarching principle of our study is a plea for a positive understanding of the so-called interference phenomena when linguistic structures of a previously learned language influence the acquisition of another foreign language. That is, as an opportunity for speakers of several languages to promote awareness of interlingual and intercultural processes and to enable a critical review of their own language use. Critical language awareness is a central aspect of foreign language didactics today, which is of great importance both theoretically and practically, because learning a foreign language goes far beyond mastering grammar and vocabulary, and also includes awareness of oneself and one's learning strategies in the language learning process. Language awareness is an umbrella term for various approaches to dealing constructively and consciously with multilingualism. It aims to promote language learning as well as the integration of linguistic minorities. Based on this endeavor, a fundamental interest in language, linguistic phenomena, and a sensitization to phenomena in one's own or foreign languages should be generated. Acquisition, expansion, and application of metalinguistic knowledge of different languages and greater language awareness should be achieved. Languages that have already been learned are enhanced and positively integrated in the learning process and can make a positive contribution to the acquisition of the third language. With these principles in mind, we have defined these three key questions for our study. Firstly, we wanted to make a characterization of typical Portuguese errors in formal language acquisition at the university in written productions by multilingual learners, in which influences of the first language learned, mostly Portuguese, and other previous learned languages, mostly English, are recognizable. Based on this taxonomy, we wanted to reflect upon the extent to which these influences represent an opportunity for multilingualism in terms of promoting language awareness. In this step, we also wanted to develop concrete didactic activities, which we did. In the third step, the aim was to elaborate a set of recommendations for foreign language teachers regarding a productive approach to dealing with errors with multilingual learners. This is the design of our empirical research. So as you see, we had a questionnaire for characterization. Then we proceeded to a content analysis of the written text, which was previously produced. We had a total number of 157 participants who produced 313 written productions, from which we analyzed a sample of 120 texts on A1, A2, and B1 levels, which are actually the levels we have at our university. Here is an overview of the results of the content analysis. I'm not going to analyze this in detail, of course. And this analysis, what is important to say, is that we based the analysis on previous taxonomies and inductively complemented these during our analysis. As this table shows, most of the almost 1,600 errors derive from the norm in the categories of grammar and spelling. At the level B1, the syntax category is also a frequent source of errors. As expected, the complexity of the errors increases as the level progresses. Here is a brief overview of the superordinate category of spelling, which is very, very common in German foreign language, which is corresponding subcategories. It is immediately apparent, as you see here, that the capitalization accounts for almost half of the errors identified. We see this as an evidence of transfer from Portuguese and possibly also from English, as there is no capitalization of nouns and formal pronouns in either languages, for example. So our results point at the significant potential, in a very short form of saying this, after so few data, for targeting exercises with learners to jointly analyze errors in order to promote their language awareness. They suggest that learners use familiar linguistic structures and transfer this knowledge to a new language. Language awareness, especially in relation to already known languages, appears not to be only as an essential prerequisite for reflection on language use, but also the result of this reflection. Recognizing and analyzing transfer-related errors offers numerous opportunities to promote multilingualism and language awareness among GFL learners, German as foreign language learners. In this context, we conceived and tested a selection of didactic approaches that focus on linguistic phenomena, similarities, and differences in order to promote language awareness. It seems to be particularly important to verbally capture the transfer processes as awareness of language acquisition and understanding of one's own learning experience serve as the basis for building new language knowledge. So here's an overview of the exercises that we created and implemented and tested. First, comparing the differences between the first language, other foreign language learned, and the foreign language learning, in this case German, can make a significant contribution to promote language awareness. When learners focus their attention on linguistic differences and similarities of particular linguistic features, this can lead them to develop hypotheses about languages and language acquisition. For example, the example that I already talked about, in Portuguese and English, there is no capitalization of nouns and formal pronouns comparable to German. So by explicitly addressing and highlighting these differences, learners develop a deeper understanding of the specific rules and conventions of the German language. Secondly, discussing culturally determined errors, such as the formal form of address with the first name, as we use it in Portuguese, we say, hello, Professor Alexandra, and this in German or in English would be a faux pas. You would never say in German, hello, Frau Professor Alexandra. This is you would use the formal form of addressing yourself, which is common in Portuguese, can deepen the understanding of sociolinguistic norms in German-speaking culture. Such discussions help learners to recognize the cultural background of their mistakes and to better adapt to the linguistic conventions of German. Third, through targeted exercises focus on common transfer errors, learners can compare grammatical structures, spelling conventions, and syntax between the languages they already know and German. This contrastive analysis not only promotes language awareness, but also supports the development of metalinguistic skills, which are beneficial for language acquisition as a whole. Fourth, didactic activities such as error analysis workshops, which we did, and these were very successful, in which learners analyze and correct errors together, errors that they did, offer a practical and effective way of promoting language awareness. This hands-on approach reinforces understanding of language rules and help learners develop the ability to self-correct, leading to improved language competence in the long term. The fifth and the last one, it is important to celebrate learners' plurilingual skills and emphasize the positive value of plurilingualism. Mistakes should not be seen, as we have said, as failures, but as natural steps in the learning process. By using mistakes as learning tools, learners' self-confidence can be boosted and their awareness of specific areas for improvement can be raised. This leads to an improvement in language competence and learners' ability to act in the correct and culturally appropriate use of German in different contexts. I come to the conclusions. In the ambit of our study, the following conclusions can be drawn for language teachers as a constructive and appreciative attitude towards deviations from the norm is central to dealing productively with errors. It should not be deficit-orientated, but rather understand mistakes as a naturally occurring important element in the process of language learning. Knowledge of possible stumbling blocks, meaning challenges that arise due to the learner's mother tongue and other languages, can be helpful here. The metalinguistic knowledge of learners and teachers can thus be specifically promoted and contribute to sensitization with regard to typical transfer-related sources of errors. Analyzing and reflecting one's own language biography is also an important step towards identifying possible influences from other languages in the learning process. Learners' multilingual repertoire represents a unique opportunity to draw on languages they already know and actively incorporate them into the learning process. This not only enables learners to utilize existing linguistic resources, but also promotes awareness of intercultural communication and language acquisition in the context of multilingualism. In addition, by integrating interactive and communication-oriented teaching methods, teachers create a positive learning environment in which mistakes are seen as a natural part. By encouraging learners to reflect upon their own learning experiences and work together to find solutions, they can strengthen their students' language awareness and specifically promote their metalinguistic knowledge. The contrastive comparison between the languages to be learned and languages already known can serve as a starting point for activating existing knowledge about language and culture. This creates an emotional basis for foreign language acquisition and strengthens also their self-motivation. The learner's motivation, sorry. In this context, we would like to argue in favor of a positive understanding of transfer phenomena by viewing them as an opportunity for the multilingual learners to become aware of interlingual and intercultural processes. These do not only enable learners to critically reflect on their own language use, but also to develop a better understanding of language and to be enriched by other languages. And with this, I'm ready at the end, and looking forward to your questions and comments. I hope I was in time.